On this video, we are going to work on this metric project for wrench drawing. As you see, all the information is given on the front view. One view drawing is needed with the thickness that we know from these notes. So let's begin the drawing. We know it's a metric drawing. All measurements are in millimeters. So we begin the new file. Make sure that your unit is set to the metric. Standard create. Standard metric IPT create. Begin on XY plane. Drawing a line anywhere on the screen first. It's a good approach to do that. Then you do dimension 110. This is going to be a center line. Select and change the line type. Move the center line to the midpoint to the origin. Select coincident. Move your cursor until you see that little green mark. That's the midpoint. Select the origin. By 2 points coincides. Exactly equal distance from both ends. Continue drawing these short lines on both ends. Another one, opposite directions. Change to center lines. Zoom on the right end. Add horizontal distance 6 and angular measurements or angular dimension between two lines 17. Similar dimensions on the left with one exception. We don't know the angle, but we do know horizontal distance 6. We do know vertical distance. Pick 2 points and assign vertical measurements. Okay, let's begin on the left side and zoom in that end and draw 2 circles. These 2 circles have different centers. That's why we drew these lines, to help us to define the center point for each circle. Select the center tool, center point circle. The one snaps to this point for the center. This is the one has larger radius. And this is the one has smaller radius. Let's add dimension to these. Because given radius and we are in the circular mode, so we will double that, would be 32, 16 given for radius. This one is given 13, would be 26 for diameter. We draw 2 lines with approximate location as I'm showing you here. Repeat for other end. And again, they are not perfectly parallel to each other, but we're going to add those after we do some changes on this shape by trimming. I'm going to keep this portion and keep trimming in case you make any mistake. Undo tool is good to cancel and redo. So let's just, it's easy to make that mistake, which I did, I believe, on this one too. Looks like, oh no, that's fine. We have that, and then we will trim this piece and this piece. That's all I need to do on this end. The rest is going to be deleted. So I escape, hit the delete key to delete. We add relations, parallel. Parallel, since this one is constrained, we can have parallel relations between these two lines and this one as well. Okay. We add radius now to this one, which is supposed to be, now we can type exactly 13 because no longer is in this circle, is arc. Okay, now we have some issues there. What's that dimension? Okay, that's 110 is on the way. Okay. So we do have this dimension still here, shows 32, and this is 13 radius. We add spacing between these two lines, which is 17. We want to make sure that this is equal distance from the center line here. So this is 17 total, should be half, 8.5 from this one to this one. We could do either by adding the dimensions or selecting this symmetric relations. Let's do that. Symmetrical relations. By selecting this, you pick outside lines first. These two lines are going to be symmetrical with each other in reference to this middle line. So now that adds those constraint symbols, and you notice they're all fully constrained. We will repeat these for on the left side. Exactly. So I'm going to repeat the whole thing again for on this side. This makes the video a little bit longer, but I'm going to do that right now. Draw in two circles. Let's add some relations. The one that has the center here at this point is the larger one, has a radius of 15, diameter of 30. Smaller one, radius of 9, diameter of 18. Again, if you refer to this one here, notice that we have two different center points. That we know that they are not concentric circles. Continue the same process, drawing two lines. These lines I draw long enough, so we're going to trim those. Okay, again, trying to keep the shape similar to what we have in another one. So we have to trim. Let's begin from cleaning up this a little bit. Looks like we made some. Okay, that's fine. It's extra piece here. Just be careful on the trimming. Again, if you make a mistake, it's possible that you will accidentally trim the wrong side. You can always undo and come back to do it again. All right, now we do have, again, 5 dimensions here because we lost the radius dimension here. We need to add 9. We do need to have dimension between these parallel relations. Important to have these relations first before your dimensions. What happens if I don't have these two parallel? If you add dimensions, would be angular dimensions. If they're not parallel, automatically it's going to switch to the angular dimensions. So make sure they're parallel before you add this dimension. Which is 13. Okay, one dimension, that's obviously the distance between each to be equal. We can add again symmetrical relations. Selecting both and selecting this middle. Again, remember you can always have another dimension between these two lines, which would be half of 13, 6.5. That in that case you don't need to have symmetrical relation, but this is, I prefer this one, so you don't have too many dimensions for design intent. Always it's a good idea to have those relations. That concludes this first sketch. This is the main part of your assignment, actually. Finish a sketch. Extrude by selecting both of them. Okay, if the center line divides them, just select each segment. It's important to have these in both directions. Switch to the both directions, symmetric. And because they do have different thickness for this ends are 6, thickness for this middle portion, the handle is 4. This is very similar to one of the assignments you did earlier, if you remember that connecting rod. In this case, it's 6. Back to XY plane. Wrong. Okay. XY plane, new sketch. I'm going to use the rectangle tool, is much faster. Also 2-point center rectangle. Snap to the origin as a center. Move your cursor until you make sure that you're inside this shaded area for both. It's not, doesn't have to be exact. As long as you are there, you can have any dimension here, as long as it reaches to both ends. Whatever dimension shows, accept that. If you want to see that clearly, it's a good idea to switch to wireframe. You can see that both are inside. It's touching and it's not exceeding this, but it's reaching there. Because we're going to merge those solids, union them, so to speak, join them. So now we have back to the dimension, continue adding the dimension between the origin and one end here. That would be 5.5. 11 is total. I'm going from the center. This way you don't have to dimension extra dimension. That's complete, fully constrained. Finish sketch. It's going to be extruded both directions. 4. Back to the view, change to shading. Shade with edges. Now we have completed the model main part, and we need to add those arcs, which we will use 23 on one end and 47 on other end. So to do those, we will go back to Tool, Fillet, under the 3D model features, select Fillet, select the size. In this case, is 47 millimeters. Select that edge and do the same on that edge. If you want to not rotate them, you can always come back and select from here. See that highlighted? That's the edge. Apply. we will select, change the radius to other end, which was 23. And then do the same thing. Probably I need to switch my view a little bit. I can see better. Rotate in that direction. This is a bit, my screen is small here, and I'm trying to get this one to rotate, and then I can select that edge here. As long as you can select those edges, and then cancel that. Back to the, okay. So we have this one created. Select the front face, new sketch. Add 2 numbers as a text using the text tool. Select this area. Change the size to 3.17 is good. A little bit larger. And 17 on this side. Another one on the right side. Any approximate location. This one doesn't have to be precise. Something in the middle. Come back and move if you need to. I need to make him a little bit, press escape here to finish. Then come back and move to somewhere is quite in the that position that is approximate location there. You want to be perfectly in the middle at this side, just eyeball the best you can, but it doesn't have to be precise exactly. We don't have any. It's just the marking that number of the wrench. This is 13 and 17 millimeter wrench. So finish the sketch. You don't have to have any dimension other than that. And you don't need to constrain those. Go ahead, extrude. Selecting both text. Right now my default size is, right now shows here 10, which is too long, of course. 1 millimeter is sufficient. I have that information for you on the handout sheet. Okay, let's go back to that, see what other things we need to add here. It says material, steel, high strength, low alloy. Text size, text height is 1 millimeter. We just did that. And all fillets and rounds are 1 millimeter, the one that we cannot see on this view, but here you can see those are 1 millimeter. Okay, let's finish that. Okay, I'm going to add the fillet. This fillet is going to be all around both cases as much as you can do that. Fillet 1. This gives a little bit smooth on the handle. Okay, do we have any more? I believe there is something here too on the corner. Need to zoom in that area. Okay, so all these should be giving more strength to it. And you have to constantly zoom back and forth and pan to get this correct. Keep adding those. continue adding these. So one more left there. I believe I have everything now. It's hard to tell from that view. So what we need to do, just make sure that you have everything there. Okay, next we're going to add material. Let's go to annotation, annotate, general note. For the metric, you see this menu, just select ISO. Okay. Mass equal, select physical properties, mass. Add text. Press enter. Material. Select property model, material. If you want to add appearance, apply. File, iProperties, physical. And we need to update the material by selecting assigned material would be, in this case, steel. Steel, high strength, low alloy. And apply. And close. And that's the information I have right now. And we don't want to express as a kilogram. We want to change that to gram. It's expressing 0.74 kilogram. It's not a proper way to such a small weight for that. We need to switch that. We can change that under the tools, document settings, units, mass units in grams. Apply. And it gives you more accurate 74 point. You don't want to do a mathematical conversion because that would be not exactly accurate. It would be just 74, would not give you that decimal points. So